What's going on, guys? Wei from Revolution here in Paris. Here with also a man that is part of one of the most dynamic brands around, Laurent Perves. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, thank you, Wei. How are you?
Fantastic. So the first question I have for you is, what is going on with Vacheron Constantin? You guys are so hot right now. You know, right now you probably have one of the biggest problems is allocating watches. You know, all your complications, everyone's after them. Everything in the overseas line, from the ultra thin to the perpetual calendar, and now, of course, with this incredible titanium flying tourbillon. I mean, absolutely stunning. And then on top of that, you dropped the 222 just before Watches and Wonders and created yet another sold out wait list. What's going on? Like, what's happening there?
Well, I think first of all, we are extremely happy that there are good reactions to what we are doing. It's always our aim, please clients, please collectors, and make people dream, about watchmaking, create emotion. I think like many other categories, not only in watchmaking, there is a phenomenon of offer to demand,
Sure.
which is unbalanced. As we are producing very few watches with the highest expectation and willing for quality, of course we don't want to compromise that at the expenses of more volumes. So indeed we have now sometimes the difficult task to say no, or to at least to say wait to our clients.
Right.
But that being said, I think being Vacheron Constantin with the age we have and the values we have, we try to stay very humble, first of all, towards the situation. We're glad that the maison has success, but I think we need to stay cold-headed.
Right.
Respect our clients and our collector first. They are the one that made our success, and we need to give them back that. Respect also new clients and newcomers to the category. It's important that people can still access our watches, so we are doing our best to accommodate all of these right now. And as said, we try to also multiply, have more and more stories, so that if you cannot have an overseas or an American 21 or a 222, you have also other choices, and we help you to discover what these choices are.
Incredible. Well, one of the watches that I love that you make the most is the Meteor.
Yes.
Right? And I've attended two launches. I remember I attended the launch for the Great Explorers. Right, and then I also attended a launch in Geneva at the Barbara Mueller Museum.
Yes.
For the masks as well. And I always love these watches because you've kind of taken the time telling and put it kind of in the four corners of the watch and really allow the métier d'art to become the focus of expression. Tell me a little bit about this series of watches before we discover exactly why we're here in Paris.
Yes. So I think even historically, Vacheron Constantin has always had a passion and interest for foreign cultures. And our founding fathers, they really had the idea that through métier d'art and through watchmaking in general, they could express or represent all the beauties of the world, which is why very early on we used old maps. We used indeed for the great explorers, for example, old cartography for Mercator as well at the time. And then we started also to do it with masterpieces of art or cultural representation. We did it with Asian culture. We did with the mask, indeed, which was a beautiful project. It was, I think, one of the first time that kind of art was used by a watchmaker. And for us, the aim is always to pay a tribute to what the culture and what the beauty it has to offer, but also to showcase how we can make it even more beautiful with the métier d'art, which is a specialty of Vacheron Constantin that we master in-house. And in the past year, we've done a couple of other projects after Les Masques. There was the Aérostier. We did another round of the tribute to Great Explorer last year, which was extremely successful. And through the opportunity of the partnership with the Louvre, we felt like we have an opportunity maybe to bring it even higher, which is why we're here today, finally, and a very exciting time for us.
Incredible. So I was on the Louvre this weekend. I have to say it was. I mean, it's incredibly inspiring, but it's also like jam-packed, right? Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we're able to go there in a private moment is one of the sort of greatest dreams for I would imagine any lover of civilization and art. But on the subject of civilization, the next Métiers d'Art series is a tribute to 4 great civilizations. Now, let me see if I've got them right. You've got Emperor Darius, the Emperor of Persia, and that civilization, which I think is beautiful, and you have his lion, right? You've got Hellenistic Greece, and that is being represented by the Nike or Victory of Samothrace as well, right? Which was this amazing statue that was uncovered, I think, in the 1860s in Samothrace as well. Then you have ancient Egypt, of course, the Sphinx of Tunis, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have finally the bust of Emperor Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, right?
Yes.
And so tell us a little bit about this process, because there's so many civilizations and there's so many pieces of art. How did you guys decide on these specific pieces?
So First of all, bravo. I can see you did a very good job visiting the Louvre because you know it all now. So we worked very early on with the Louvre, even on the thematic itself. It was important for that first tangible watch project, because we had other projects with the Louvre already, but more in the field of patrimonial conservation and education and communication. But for that watch project, we wanted to have a topic that we are all comfortable with. Vacheron has always been comfortable with the notion of civilization, exploration of civilization, cultures and art. And I think for the Louvre, it was also perfect because they're of course known for the pyramid and the masterpiece that they house, but they have a very specific knowledge in the study of these old and ancient civilization. Me, myself, I remember as a kid visiting a special exhibition on Egypt and being absolutely amazed by what I was seeing. So we felt in agreement very early on the topic, and then the advantage of the partnership is to have at our disposal the experts and the curators of the Louvre, and they came very quickly with a selection of the masterpieces that were looking the most appropriate for this project. And I have to say the choice was super quick. The proposals were immediately well received, and we are lucky because they understood very well what we wanted to do and what were the best masterpieces to do it, which are the one that you mentioned just before. And then probably the longest part of that work started with the technical development, which is way more complex, of course, because you have to take the specifics of each period, each culture, each civilization and its techniques and transpose them into craftsmanship and métier d'art, which was for us a beautiful challenge. And through the meeting of our experts, our heritage department with the curator of the Louvre, our design department and the curator, and then our artisans with their own artisan and their restoration workshop, made this very special and helped us, I hope, at least pushing the boundaries of métier d'art a bit higher than what it was.
But let's talk about this as well, because you have really brought it to the next dimension, right? I mean, when I think of these Métier d'art watches, I've seen beautiful examples of cloisonné enamel. I've seen amazing examples of micro engraving, like with the masks. But here we're working on, okay, if we include the movement, 4 different layers, right? So we've got the movement, then we've got the dial, which already has amazing things like miniature painting, bas relief. You've even got like tiny like bricks that have been colored and glazed. And then on top of that, you've got a sapphire crystal layer, which has a metallization that has, really cool inscriptions. For example, there's a message from the temple of Samothrace as well, a tribute to the gods. And then on top of that, you got the miniature engraving of the theme. I mean, tell me about how this brings Métier art to the next dimension, bro.
So the idea was, we very often combine métier d'art and complications, particularly in Les Cabinotiers or Métier d'art collections. But I don't think we ever had combined that many métiers d'art together to tell different stories. The inspiration was from the fact that when we looked at each civilization, we tried to find commonalities to talk about them. So more storytelling, cues or variable. And one was, of course, like the iconic representation, the lion, the emperor, the victory, etc. The second one was writing. Actually, all these different civilizations had their own writing, their own alphabet, so we came to pick them and to represent. They all had ornaments, decorative elements, and frieze that we could use. And so seeing that richness, we thought we don't want to represent only the iconic representation, we want the rest as well to give a real taste of the civilization. And then we thought, if we do it, let's try to pay tribute to several techniques. So if I take, for example, the Augustus bust watch, there is, of course, his watch, his representation, which is the statue itself, and which paid tribute to sculpture. But you can see also on the watch that we've paid tribute to a mosaic, which was particularly used at the time for representations instead of paintings. And so we managed to represent it as micro mosaic, which is a stone by stone assembly.
That's incredible. So you're telling us that's a micro mosaic
that's micro mosaic, it's assembled. So first of all, the designer has to get back the drawing, which is inspired from a real mosaic kept at the Louvre. Then he had to redraw it at a larger scale in order to see how to organize the colors and each zone. And then this is transmitted to a mosaic artisan who's going to assemble stone by stone in order to make the drawing. The stones are extremely small, and it's a couple of millimeters. So they have to be picked with a very small pinch and assembled one by one to create that beautiful drawing.
That's incredible. And am I correct that the writing is actually on a layer of sapphire crystal?
Yes. So you have this first layer with the mosaic, and on top of it you have a sapphire crystal, which has a metallization with a Latin inscription which in that case is one of the first manifesto of the emperor.
Incredible. Wow. Mind-blowing.
Thank you.
And so we also have the Sphinx of Tunis as well.
The Sphinx of Tunis, yeah, which is also, kept at the Louvre, of course. And here we have this very specific motif of the back, which is champ levé enamel, which, as you know, is one of the most tricky technique of enameling.
Right.
And here our enameler had to find ways not to make it look too new.
Right.
So in fact, he had it matter. He had it matter to the enamel painting.
Right.
To give it that, let's say, ancient or dusty effect.
Right.
That makes it look even more antique.
Ah, really? So he added like a sort of...
He added some matter at the end
like
before
gold
the
dust
cooking.
or something like
exactly.
that. Exactly, right.
And some in order. And you can see as well in the way he managed the contrast between the white dots and the rest, there is really a little push. So here again, a lot of work also on the Sphinx itself, of course, in terms of sculpting. And the hieroglyphs that are telling the story of the Pharaoh Ptah that have been provided by us by the Louvre and that are once again metallized directly on that glass in order to create that layer. Actually, there is a last layer, which is the glass of the watch itself with the Vacheron Constantin logo. So I think if we add everything, we have 5.
You've got 5 layers. You know what I have to say is remarkable is that even though these are watches using ancient techniques and using ancient motifs as well, they feel like the watches feel really contemporary, you know?
I think it's exactly what we are discussing this morning with Christian Selmoni, our head of style and heritage, is that it's not because we're working on ancient topics and on history that we cannot try to innovate and be modern. And I think what's great with that collection is we're talking about representation that are sometimes several thousand years, but still the watch are very contemporary indeed, very wearable, beautiful. And I think that's also our role is to respect and to sort of bring back to life some very specific design and representation and make sure they're always relevant to today's taste and needs.
That, Laurent, that's what's so interesting to me is that when I think about Vacheron right now, I think about a brand that's like dynamic, energetic, youthful. Despite being 250 over years old, so youthful in terms of the energy and dynamism, right? And you've taken Métiers d'Art now, and to me made them super relevant to the next generation. Tell me why that's important to you.
But it's really the definition of what our maison has been doing for 267 years. Actually, it's funny because you said, yeah, we're old, but actually being old means you manage to stay young longer than the others. and actually, if you think about it, Vacheron went through 4 different centuries, industrial revolutions, like all kind of catastrophes or good things. And through this, the maison managed to evolve, but always by staying relevant to its time. Right. So I think in our philosophy, we always look behind at the past to remember where we come from and what we know how to do and to take inspiration also from our great founders, artists and watchmakers of the past. But we always try to think like, how does it make it relevant to today? Right. And you mentioned before a project like the 222, for example. Yes. When we relaunched it at Vacheron, we knew it's that design in that specific period now, today, in that material was relevant, which was maybe not the case 10 years ago, maybe won't be the case in 15 years. Right. But for today was perfect. And so today with that collection of Métiers d'Art and with the opportunity of the partnership with Louvre, we feel that appeal of our clients or collectors for art in general, also an appeal to learn, to look back at the great civilization of the past and to know more about their history. And that's a motivation to push the level of Métiers d'Art, as you said, higher. And indeed, these watches, they are very creative. They are very innovative to some aspect, the layering of different techniques. The 2460 movement in this G4 version is still a very innovative movement, with not having hands and working only with these 4 guichets and these discs. And so I think, again, that's the essence of Vacheron Constantin is really maybe never to be trendy or the youngest, but to be permanently relevant. Incredible.
So let's talk about the victory of
That's your favorite, this one.
It is indeed, sir.
So that's the victory of Samothrace, which is of course a very well-known sculpture in the Louvre and beautiful heritage of the ancient Greece. As the other watch has been associated with specific Greek writings here and ornaments from the time with a frieze on the side of the watch. It's the first one we started to work on historically, because it was the most challenging one in terms of placement. As you can see, under the recommendation of Le Louvre, we had to place it non-centered on the dial, and we had to open actually the sculpture itself for one of the guichets.
Right.
And the reason why is that the important feature of the Victoria of Samothrace is the wing.
wings.
And so we wanted, under the recommendation, of course, to have that wing very central.
Amazing.
And then a lot of work, of course, of hand engraving to make this happen for a beautiful timepiece. I think it's one that particularly resonates with you.
It is actually. I just recently got a tattoo when I was in Los Angeles, and it's a victory motif. It's a Hellenistic victory motif, which actually uses this statue as its base.
All
so
right.
since we have a little moment, maybe I'll share it with you. You can tell me
no
what
problem.
you think.
Let's see if it's as well made as.
So.
All right. Oh yeah.
You can see here.
Yeah. I see
and the wings are going back there, exactly. Right.
That's not
too bad.
Not too bad. You just missed the little Maltese cross here on top.
Indeed. I think. Well, apparently, I've heard that that's like the condition if you want to get a 222 now.
That's absolutely not true. But you can try, maybe. Who knows?
Amazing. And can I just ask you, Laurent? We've got basically 5 watches of each. Am I correct?
Yes. So you have the 4 different civilizations, and each will be limited edition of 5 pieces.
And you brought us all to Paris for 5 watches.
For 20 in total,
Yes.
But to showcase you 4, yes, because I mean beyond the fact that we're gonna produce and sell these watches, the intent is much more. First of all, to celebrate the partnership with the Louvre,
Right.
And their contribution to the preservation again of this fantastic patrimony and for this past civilization. It's also to showcase the world what we're able to do in terms of métiers d'art,
Right.
and as said, try to push the boundaries upper. And finally, I mean, you've seen the pieces now in the flesh. I guess you had the pictures before. You can see it's different when you
Absolutely.
see them here.
Absolutely.
And this event was already delayed a couple of times because of the sanitary conditions. And to be honest, we never considered doing it differently than physically to be able to show the pieces. So when you have Le Louvre as a place to present a work you're very proud of, that's something you cannot refuse, and so you're willing to invite a lot of people, even if it's very few watches.
That's very kind, sir. Well, thank you for inviting me. I really
Pleasure.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you
And
for being
congratulations on these, on the Métiers d'Art, but on everything that Vacheron's doing now. There's so much energy, so bravo.
Thank you, Wei. It means a lot to us. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.